All right, new this morning, the fallout from the Jeffrey Epstein file release was on President Trump's mind over Christmas. He used one of his dozens of holiday posts to wish, quote, "Merry Christmas to all, including the many sleazebags who loved Epstein." It comes as the Justice Department now says it has uncovered more than 1 million additional documents potentially related to the case, and that it may need a few more weeks to review and release them to the public. Under the law signed by President Trump in November, all the DOJ Epstein documents were supposed to be released last Friday. Joining me now is Nick Ackerman. He was an assistant special Watergate prosecutor and a former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. All right, so these Epstein files, they go back decades, right?
Correct.
How can something like this happen where the DOJ on Christmas Eve, mind you, suddenly says, hey, we're now become aware of more than 1 million more files potentially related to Epstein that it's going to take us weeks now to send out to the public?
Total nonsense. They had to know that these files existed right from the get-go. First of all, we know that prior to May of this year, Pam Bondi had lots of FBI agents going through all of these files to determine whether President Trump's name was in these documents. So she knew where the documents were. But on top of that, even more glaring is the fact that all of these documents, they had to know were in the Southern District of New York that prosecuted the Maxwell and Epstein criminal cases.
Why is that?
Because when you're a prosecutor, you are obliged, you're commanded to return over to the defense exculpatory evidence under a Supreme Court decision known as Brady. And in order to do that, you have to get every file that's in the federal government, whether it's in the FAA or some other agency, they have to be under your control so you can comply with your Brady obligations. And certainly Todd Blanche, who was in charge of this whole matter, was a former assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. He should have known that. So they had to know that these were there. There's no excuse for it.
All right. I do want to ask you about the process of going through these documents to make the redactions, which can be a tedious thing. Is it any surprise with the number of years this case has gone on, with the number of victims in this case, that it didn't meet its deadline, that the DOJ was not able to put everything out?
Well, they should have been able to because they knew who the victims were. It's a matter of just putting a black mark over people who are victims. That was it. There's certainly nothing in there for national security. There's no other really valid reason not to turn over all this information. This should have taken no time at all. They should have been able to do it in that month. They knew where the documents were. This is just a lame excuse.
I do want to ask you, you've gotten bipartisan criticism of how this Pam Bondi has handled this, how her office has handled the release of these files. What do you think it is doing as far as the way people feel towards the DOJ, the public trust?
Oh, I think the public trust is completely dissolved. There is no public trust in the DOJ anymore, whether it's appearing in court before judges or whether it's just what they're doing with the public and telling the public what they have or don't have. I think she's got zero credibility at this point.
And when it comes to how these were put out, you had all of this back and forth where a couple of times the DOJ put documents out, then they rescinded them, saying there are some issues here that we need to do some redactions. And they put a hugely redacted where you couldn't see anything, just pages and pages that were darkened. I mean, is this a normal process for putting out information to the public?
Not at all. Even when you do a federal Information Act request, you get things back that are redacted. You saw the Mueller report, that was redacted, but it's just little bits and pieces so that you can't understand something that might relate to personal information or be really confidential on another investigation. There's none of that here. I mean, this is stuff that goes back to, 2010 and before that they should have had ready to produce at the moment that law passed. I mean, there's no excuse for any of this.
They were given a month, and there are a lot of documents, but they also had some inference that this was coming because it was discussed over and over and over again, and then Congress finally passed the law. The president signed it. Nick Ackerman, thank you for giving us some insight into how this should work and how you see it breaking down. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, ahead. An incredible rescue. How crews